last week David was talking about getting into the new term, into the new academic year. Me? I'm trying to hang on to the school holidays. 2 quite tough weeks with lots of new children, and not all of them happy, shall we say. So I'm thinking today about how God is being really creative in how he speaks to us. So as a reading, we're going to hear from 1 Samuel chapter 3, quite a well-known passage. Janet's going to read it for us. So 1 Samuel, starting at 1 Samuel chapter 3, starting at verse 1. That's what it is.
The Lord calls Samuel. The boy Samuel ministered before the Lord under Eli. In those days, the word of the Lord was rare. There were not many visions. One night, Eli, whose eyes were becoming so weak that he could barely see, was lying down in his usual place. The lamp of God had not yet gone out, and Samuel was lying down in the house of the Lord, where the ark of God was. Then the Lord called Samuel. Samuel answered, "Here I am." And he ran to Eli and said, "Here I am, you called me." But Eli said, "I did not call. Go back and lie down." So he went and lay down. Again the Lord called, "Samuel." Samuel got up and went to Eli and said, "Here I am, you called me." "My son," Eli said, "I did not call. Go back and lie down." Now Samuel did not yet know the Lord. The word of the Lord had not yet been revealed to him. A third time the Lord called, "Samuel." And Samuel got up and went to Eli and said, "Here I am, you called me." Then Eli realized that the Lord was calling the boy. So Eli told Samuel, "Go and lie down, and if he calls you, say, 'Speak, Lord, for your servant is listening.'" So Samuel went and lay down in his place. The Lord came and stood there, calling, as at the other times, "Samuel, Samuel." Then Samuel said, "Speak, for your servant is listening." And the Lord said to Samuel, "See, I am about to do something in Israel that will make the ears of everyone who hears about it tingle."
Quite a well-known passage about Samuel learning to hear that it was God that was speaking to him. God speaks in lots of different ways. He's very creative, I find, in how he speaks to us. There, Samuel had an audible voice. I guess most of us don't often hear that, do we? Or if ever. Perhaps God speaks to us through church, through songs, through the words of the fabulous songs we sing, through Bible readings, through sermons and testimonies. We also find that God speaks to us in our everyday life. So what I'm going to do, hanging on to the summer holidays, I'm going to show you some of our holiday pictures. Don't worry, I'm not showing you all the hundreds that Adam took, just a few, and just some things that God said to me in those everyday situations. But I did think we should just start with a couple of photographs. This is not what I'm talking about. I thought you might just like to see. There's David and Clive. David and Clive. I'll let David explain to you why he's carrying an inflatable crocodile across the campsite. And if you need a bit of joy today, ask him how he got in into the swimming pool and what Clive did in the swimming pool. If you need a bit of joy. I'm not going to talk about, that's me just in case you can't tell. Every Dutch campsite has an air pillow, which is like a sort of, I don't know, a kind of a trampoline that they blow up during the day. That's me doing a star jump on the air pillow. Quite impressed with that. I'm not talking about those, but I thought we'd just start with a bit of a laugh. So, what I'm really going to talk about, 1 or 2 other pictures, and some things that God said to me about those things. So we're on a campsite. We go camping in the summer in our big tent. We're in the Netherlands. We've done loads of camping in the Netherlands. It's fabulous. When we got the information, and there's always some in English, which is great for us because our Dutch reading is not very good. There was some information on the campsite. There was a warning on the information about not leaving rubbish or food outside the tents or outside your caravan. We saw quite a bit of wildlife. We had a hedgehog under Adam's chair that David discovered when it was pitch black. We had some ducks that came to the tent and into the tent. A slight bit of encouragement. And we did hear an owl several nights. That's not what the warning was about, though. When we went out one morning, one of the tents near us had left some bin liners carefully tied up full of rubbish. When we came back, after wherever we'd been to, this is what we saw. Can you see that? The rubbish has been scattered. What you can't see is the seagull that flew off just as I took the photograph. The seagull who was having a merry old time, diving into the bags, pulling things out, ripping it out, shredding it, scattering it across. That was what the warning was. Recently, one of our Bible readings with Emma has been, we all like sheep have gone astray, each of us to his own way, and the Lord has laid on him the iniquity of us all. A fabulous prophecy from Isaiah 53. About what God is going to do to sort out the divide caused by our sin, the divide that comes between us and God. It talks about the cost. Jesus was going to be pierced, bruised. There's going to be punishment laid on him. And it talks about the benefit to us, our peace, how our wounds are healed. All of this is to deal with our sin, once and for all. We might think we can hide it. We might think we can ignore it. We might think we've dealt with it because it's packed up neat somewhere. It's not true. It separates us from God. It leaks out in the way we live, the way we treat people. God, though, through Jesus, offers us a way to deal with it fully and completely. So it's not there for the devil to cause havoc with. Psalm 103 says, as far as the east is from the west, so far has he, God, removed our transgressions from us. The seagull and the mess that they made was a reminder to take sin seriously. It was a reminder from God to rejoice that he has sorted this out for us, but we have to do our part. It was a reminder that this matters and that God has the way for us to deal with it, but we have to make that choice. That was the first picture, the first thing God said. So then on our holiday, we don't do a lot, really. We're not good at museums, are we? We don't do a lot, but we do play quite a lot of games, particularly cards. Cards are great, I find, on holiday, because they're easy to carry around. Adam's always got a pack in his bag, wherever we've gone out somewhere. So we sat in various places and we just have a quick game of cards. Lots of choice of games to play, but they're quite easy to carry around with you. One of our favourite games is card dominoes. You might know it as sevens. Do you have the next photo, Dan? So there's Adam and Emma playing card dominoes. Have you played card dominoes? You deal out all the cards, and then you start with the sevens, and you've got to play them all in order, and you're trying to be the first one to get rid of all your cards. So the game strategy is that if you have a choice of cards to play, you play the one that is least helpful to everybody else. Because you're trying to get rid of your cards, but you're trying to stop everybody else playing theirs. So you're not just trying to help yourself, you're trying to hinder other people. Struck me when we were playing it this year that the way to win is to be as awkward, as unhelpful, and as difficult as you possibly can, within the rules, but to be as difficult as you can. To be as awkward so it makes it harder for everybody else as you can. That's the way to try and win. Does it ever feel like the world operates like that? At best, lots of people do what's best for themselves. Sometimes they do what's best for themselves without thinking about how it affects other people, like blocking the junctions at traffic lights because they're trying to get through and they've just, caused the chaos. But sometimes people do what's best for them and they're trying to be awkward for other people as well. Sometimes the world can be a harsh and selfish and unhelpful place. We're called not to live like that, though, are we? Think about Philippians 2 talks about Jesus being a servant and putting things aside and giving everything he had. Think about how Jesus washed his disciples' feet, how he went out of his way to do a really unpleasant job that only a lowly servant in the house would have done. often talked about how we're called to serve, not be served, how the greatest will be least. Talked about loving our enemies as well as our friends. We're called as Christians, as followers of Jesus, to be kind and helpful, to be gentle and patient and trustworthy, so many other things. That can be a really hard instinct to fight. That can be really hard. Our instinct can be to fight our corner, to stand up for ourselves, to get what we're entitled to win, to be right, to put ourselves forward. Jesus calls us to a different way. The challenge is choosing the right way to be with other people, isn't it? Easier on some days than others, I'm sure. But it's also knowing how to respond to other people's lack of care. Not joining in, but keeping quiet. So we're not adding to it, but we're not helping either. Perhaps we model different ways of responding. Perhaps sometimes the place comes to challenge somebody's behaviour. It's tricky, isn't it? Playing cards is a reminder to me to ask God about how my behaviour affects others, my friends, my family, those that are part of my life, but also those I come into contact with in the supermarket, through work, in other things. I can tell you I don't always get it right, far from that. But that takes me back to the first picture and the reminder that God deals with our sin when we ask him to. So the second picture is a reminder about looking at how we are and how our behaviour, our choices, our words affect the world, the people around us. Okay, number 3. Third picture. So on our holidays, in our tent, we have a bit of a role reversal on holiday. So at home, probably I do more of the cooking. I certainly do less of the washing up, if any. Sometimes I do some washing up, but on holiday, David pretty much does all the cooking, and I and my washing up team do the washing up. So our camping pans, because space is a premium in our car, if anybody's seen our car packing up going on holiday, our camping pans are not the most robust, I think is the word. They're 3 pans that slot together, and then you have a separate handle that you sort of clip on. The handle's not great, the lid's not great. We manage, but not great. So we're trying to drain some pasta, which was a team effort because it was trying to tip the pan and not have everything, the handle didn't quite. So we really struggled. Some pasta escaped into the bushes. Who knows who might have eaten that later on in the evening. And I thought at that point, as I've got a fork and David's got the pan and somebody's holding the lid and we're trying to keep the pasta but get rid of the water, I thought then, when we get home, I really must remember to buy a proper, like a sieve. So we can take a sieve with us and that will make it a whole lot easier. Mental note, I'll remember to do that. I probably even made a little note in my phone just in case my mental note got lost on the way home. Then, when we were packing up at the end of the holiday and putting everything back in the boxes to cram it back into the car, we found this. I did bring a photograph. I thought you might like to see it in all this. Do you know what that is? That is a camping sieve. We'd obviously had the same thought last year. I'd been away and bought it. I tucked it in the camping box. Not even realised I had it with us until we found it as we were packing up. What it said to me, God said to me, God gives us lots of gifts and tools to help us and equip us for our lives and all that's going on. We've got the fabulous, the armour of God, those things that remind us of how God protects us and gives us strength and courage and equips us in the things we're facing. We can pray. We talked last week about worship and the power of worshipping God as a tool, as a defence, as a courage giver. Being part of church, which David's also preached about, being part of a church is a gift to help us as we live our Christian lives. We've got Christian friends who pray for us, who remind us of things, who understand us, who encourage us. We've got the Bible and the power of the words in the Bible. How much do we value these things? How much do we remember that we have them? Do we remember to use them? David last week in Psalm 107 said from verse 27, he said, it says, when the Israelites, were at their wits' end, they cried out. When they were at their wits' end, they cried out. How many times do we do that? How many times do we wait until we're desperate before we ask God to help us? We don't need to, do we? We don't need to wait till we're desperate. It's not like trying to contact the doctor and have to wait till I can't cope anymore and then I'll get in touch. It's not like that. God is not like that. God gives us the tools and the gifts and the things and his presence, not just for when we're desperate, but in all of our life. What a waste if we only wait to use it when we absolutely have no choice. So the sieve, which I'm going to pack in a more prominent place next year, is a reminder that God wants to be involved in all my life. He wants to help me all the time, not just when I feel I can't do it myself. And finally, picture number 4. I told you there weren't hundreds. Picture number 4. So, I've already said, I do the washing up, me and my team. And most campsites, particularly Dutch ones, have a really fabulous communal washing up area. So, you take your stuff there, there's hot water, there's plenty of sinks with big space, there's space to wash, there's space to dry, there's bins to put any bits of food you need to scrape out. Fantastic. It's interesting watching what other people bring. We have a standard basic washing up bowl. Look at that, that looks like it's been on a few holidays, doesn't it? There's our standard basic washing up bowl. You pack it up with stuff. We only wash up once a day on holiday. Cereal bowls at breakfast, little plates at lunchtime, big plates at tea time. We wash up once. And we all have our own colour plastic cup, so we use the same cup all day. One set of washing up, it's marvellous. So there's a real knack to fitting everything in the bowl, because you've got to get all of it to the washing up place without dropping anything. And your washing up liquid and your tea towel and your scourers and anything else you might need. So you carry it all there, you have to unpack it, use the bowl, pack everything up, bring it back. It works really well, as long as your team are efficient and helpful, which my team are. Emma's nodding. My team are efficient and helpful. So we're all right. We've got a good strategy. We do it. The washer up from home gets a break. That's nice. So there we are. We've got our system. It all works very nicely. But then this year, we've seen lots and lots of these. Look at that. That's from a catalogue, because I did debate taking a photograph of somebody with a washing up bowl, but I wasn't sure. I fancied explaining why I wanted a photograph of their washing up bowl. Look at that. Look at that. Look at the handles. It folds nice and flat, so it's easy to pack. And it's got handles, so you don't have to try and, normally I've got 2 hands round the bowl or I'm holding it, so then if anything's a bit precarious on the top, which sometimes it is, you've got to try and you can't hold it against your clothes because you might end up with whatever you've had for tea, it's off the pants, it ends up down the front of your clothes, it's not, but look at that. I think pretty much every single person we saw coming to wash up this year had one of those, except us. There was just us. Somebody even brought, they had everything like that, but then I was watching at the corner of my eye. So they had like a little tray to put underneath it. They had a special draining thing, and I had a little tray underneath, so to catch all the bits. And then there was something else under that. I mean, look, they're obviously not in a tent. I'm sure they must be in a caravan at least. Every single person except us brought one of them. Different colours, different sizes, but they all had them except us. Suddenly, I know, suddenly, our cheap, basic, been on lots of holidays washing up bowl didn't seem quite good enough. So, how easily do we fall into the trap of comparing ourselves? That's what God said to me. How easily do we fall into the trap? It usually means we end up feeling dissatisfied with who we are, or what we can do, or what we have, or what we know of God, or what we feel He's doing through us, or how we feel our prayers have been answered. It usually ends up with us feeling dissatisfied with who we are, or how we're living. It's really good to learn from other people, to be inspired, to learn things, to be challenged, to find out how to do things better. That is fantastic. That's a great thing to do. But it's not good if it leads us to feel we're not as good. There's no leaderboard in God's kingdom. That might be on Strictly, but there is no leaderboard in God's kingdom. There is not a scale of, this is how much I love all these different people, this is how much I value them. That's not how he works. And yet, so often, so many of us live as if that's how it works. I was listening recently to Trevor Nelson, the DJ, was talking about his life and coming through his life, and he said in his 30s particularly, he worked really hard at not being envious of other people and what they were doing and where they were working. He was just establishing himself as a DJ and doing all sorts of things, and he said, I knew I had to be sure that I wasn't thinking less of myself, that I wasn't envious, that I could celebrate other people's successes and for them not to make me feel less. He said, and because of that, I'm happy with where I am, with what I'm doing, the things, and I've been able to enjoy that, but also celebrate with other people. That's a gift, isn't it? Our washing up bowl, I know we joked, but it was just a reminder to me to keep looking to God for my value, to know that I'm enough because he's made me, because he loves me forever. Who knows, I might be lucky enough to get a bowl of candles for Christmas, perhaps, if I'm really good between now and Christmas, maybe. Maybe this morning you need a reminder about how valuable you are to God. Maybe you need a reminder that God has a process for tackling sin, and it's free, and he gives it, and it brings freedom. Maybe this morning you need a reminder that God gives you gifts. God is giving you tools that help in the challenges and the joys that you're facing now. I don't know what you need reminding of this morning. Maybe it's something completely different. God's very good at using the words we say and bringing other meanings from them. That's fine. I guess what I'm saying this morning is that God is keen to communicate with us. And he does it in lots and lots of different ways. What's he got to say to you this week? What do you need reminding of? How's he encouraging you to go deeper? Where's he reminding you that he's part of your life now? Perhaps as Samuel said, we can say, speak, Lord, your servant is listening. Amen.
Amen.
God in my living, there in my breathing, God in my waking, God in my sleeping, God in my resting, there in my working, God in my thinking, God in my speaking. Be my everything. Be my everything, be my everything, be my everything. God in my hoping, there in my dreaming, God in my watching, God in my waiting, God in my laughing, there in my weeping, God in my hurting, God in my healing. Be my everything, be my everything, be my everything, be my everything. Christ in me, Christ in me, Christ in me, the hope of glory. everything, be my everything, be my everything.